Welcome to your broker admin, where we dive into the latest review outcomes, share practical tips in our Humpday helpers, and feature special industry guest interviews to help you stay on top of the game. Whether you're flying solo or part of a team, we're here to help you streamline your processes and work smarter, not harder.
Well, it's that time of the week again with another episode of Your Broker Admin ready to go. But before we trek into episode 81, here's this week's bonus history bite. On this day in history, July the 22nd, is all about exploration. In 1793, William Mackenzie finally reaches the Pacific Ocean, becoming the first European to complete a transcontinental crossing of Canada. This time, travelling by river in a bark canoe and overland, he opted to take directions from the local Indians along the way. Once there, he inscribed his name on a rock on the Pacific shore. Funny how some journeys, even centuries apart, seem to have a few things in common. And in 1933, American aviator Wiley Post completes the first solo flight around the world, taking 7 days and 19 hours. 2 years earlier, he had completed the first aerial circumnavigation by single-engine monoplane with Australian navigator Harold Gatty. Post also made significant contributions to high-altitude flight before tragically dying in a plane crash near Point Barrow, Alaska in 1935. Moving on to the present day, this week on YBA, we'll kick things off with the reviews wrap-up, covering the week ending the 17th of July 2026, continuing the steady results with interest savings, new lending opportunities, and more of those relationship-building client conversations. Then we'll move on to this week's Humpday Helper, where I share a quick update on some upcoming fee changes for AMP. I'm Rob Cummings. Thanks for listening to the show, and let's get this week's episode started. This week in the reviews wrap-up, we look at outcomes from loan reviews completed during the week ending the 17th of July 2026. Whilst it wasn't quite as fruitful as last week, there were still some good outcomes. We had 4 completed reviews result in rate reductions, delivering around $2,000 in interest savings, along with 1 new lending opportunity of approximately $745,000. And the outcome of the week? This week, it was Heritage's turn. A 0.25% reduction on an expiring fixed rate, where the quoted revert rate was 6.39%. That reduction provided the client with an interest saving of around $975. I was actually a little surprised by the level of reduction on this one because Heritage are normally very competitive when it comes to retention pricing, even without intervention. So it was a good result and one that certainly helped the client avoid moving on to that much higher revert rate. And this week's lending opportunity of $745,000 came from a GoEdge customer who wasn't particularly keen on the idea of being migrated across to NAB. That feeling probably didn't improve when they received the recent notification about the 0.1% out-of-cycle rate increase and the end rate offered after the reduction. What started as a review of the existing position has potentially turned into a broader conversation around their lending strategy. Now for this week's client conversations. The first of this week's conversations was with a client who has their home loan with CBA. The loan was settled back in 2020 when they purchased their current property. The rate review didn't yield any reduction, but the rate was reasonably good anyway at 6.15%. We rang and spoke with the client to confirm completion of the review and the outcome. It wasn't really about the rate, as they were roughly aware what the rate was already. The conversation moved towards the property itself because the value had increased significantly since purchase. They'd had a quick look at the property report we had provided and were happy about the increase in the value. We then asked whether they had thought about any future plans. They mentioned they now have a 9-month-old son and have been thinking about buying another property with some acreage if prices continue to soften and keep this one as a rental. We also spoke about the funds they have in redraw and to maybe consider moving these into an offset account if they did decide to buy another property, which would assist with interest deductions on the loan if they rented it out. The client then commented they would look to borrow some more against this property to buy the new one and claim the interest on the bigger loan. We recommended they discuss this with their accountant first, as it might be better to borrow additional funds now and throw it into the offset with the rest. The key message here was really around planning ahead. Make sure both parties are aligned on their strategy, get the right advice, then have the conversation with the broker. We advised the client that we would let the broker know we had this discussion. The client appreciated the review and the call, particularly the suggestions around planning for what may come next. The second client conversation was with a Go Edge customer. The loan settled in 2022 when they purchased their home. A review was conducted last year with no reduction obtained, and at the time they were about to head off to Poland for a family holiday to visit the in-laws. This year, we were able to secure a rate reduction for them of 0.12%. We rang and spoke with the client to let them know of the rate reduction received. The client stated they appreciated it. We then spoke about their trip to Poland last year with the twins. Apparently they spent about a month there and had an enjoyable time with the extended family. We also spoke about the changes happening with the loan and the pending migration to NAB, which they were aware of. Also, the recent out-of-cycle rate increase of 0.1% was of concern. However, Go Edge have already factored this into the reduced rate offered of 6.32%. Mind you, it's still not a great rate though for an owner-occupied loan. Interestingly, the client said they had actually been meaning to speak with the broker about their concerns around moving to NAB, but they just hadn't got around to it. The review call has now prompted them to revisit that intended conversation. We offered to have the broker contact them to discuss the options further, which they were very happy with. So in summary, this week was a classic case of an opportunity that wasn't immediately sitting on the surface. What started as a simple review conversation developed into a broader discussion. It gave the client the space to talk through an idea that had been sitting in the background and start working through what might be possible. Because sometimes clients don't need someone to find the answer for them. They need someone to help them work out what the questions are. And that can be by simply providing them with a sounding board. This week's Humpday Helper number 183 is a quick heads up on some upcoming fee changes for AMP, just in case you haven't come across them yet. Firstly, effective the 30th of July 2026, a new $2,500 application fee will apply to all new company and or trust applications at settlement. A couple of important points to note. This only applies to new applications submitted on or after the 30th of July. Existing pipeline applications and reworks are excluded. The fee is a one-off charge collected at settlement. Then, effective the 25th of August 2026, there are increases to a couple of existing fees. The annual fee for professional and select packages is increasing from $349 to $415, and discharge fees are increasing from $390 to $490 across all loan products. Nothing too complicated with this one, but definitely worth being aware of if you're working on AMP scenarios involving company or trust structures, or simply have clients considering refinancing to AMP in the near future.
Thanks for listening to your broker admin. If you've got feedback, questions, or a topic you'd like covered on the show, you can now send it through via our Contact the Show page. The link is in the episode notes. If the link's not clickable in your player, just copy it from the show notes or head to the episode description on your phone. A rating on Apple Podcasts, a review on Podchaser, or a follow on Spotify all help the show reach the people it's built for. This has been your broker admin for those who like their process neat.